Night fell over the Pine Ridge Mountains in Montana, bringing a biting cold and early snowflakes dancing under the flickering streetlights. Inside Ranger Station Number 9, the atmosphere should have been filled with joy. The crackling fire in the hearth blended with the scent of cinnamon and pine. For young rangers, Tyler, Sarah, Jax, and Chloe sat around a wooden table, but their enthusiasm seemed dampened by an invisible sense of unease. The clock ticked past 10. It had been 4 hours since the last radio check-in from Mr. Miller, the veteran ranger and their mentor. Miller was a man of strict principle. He had never missed a shift or a station Christmas party. Just as Jack stood up to start the truck for a search, a strange noise shattered the forest and oppos as silence. It wasn't the whistling wind or the sound of a branch snapping under the weight of snow. It was a series of heavy, frantic knocks against the thick oak door. The group held their breath as Tyler cautiously approached and turned the handle. The warm, golden light from inside spilled out, illuminating an impossible figure shivering on the doorstep. A young gorilla with fur as white as snow, its large eyes filled with panic and a plea for help. But what truly made their hearts stop was what the creature held in its hand, a faded ranger's hat, caked in mud and stained with fresh blood, Mr. Miller's blood. In a moment, they knew their peaceful Christmas night was over, marking the beginning of a life-or-death race against time. Silence gripped the room the moment the door opened. Tyler, Sarah, Jax, and Chloe stood frozen, eyes wide at a creature that didn't and oppos belong in this world. An albino gorilla in the snowy mountains of Montana? It was so nonsensical that Jax instinctively reached for his sidearm, muttering about some legendary forest monster. However, Sarah quickly stopped him. She noticed the trembling in the gorilla and oppos, his shoulders and the genuine pain in its dark eyes. When the gorilla dropped Mr. Miller's hat at Tyler's feet, it wasn't an oppos challenge. It was a desperate handoff. The creature let out a low grunt, then turned to point toward the North Canyon, the most treacherous terrain in the region. Without a second in oppos, hesitation, Tyler ordered the team to gear up. They stepped out of the station's warmth and into the freezing night, where heavy snow began to fall as if trying to erase all traces. The white gorilla moved strangely. It didn't vanish into the darkness, but maintained a specific distance, occasionally stopping on rocky outcrops to ensure the humans were keeping up. Under the sweep of their flashlights, its white fur appeared like a phantom, leading them through secret trails that even Chloe's modern topographic maps didn't end oppos show. Throughout the trek, brief conversations between the rangers were filled with doubt. Jax kept muttering that it could be a trap, but Sarah was fascinated by how the gorilla interacted with the environment. It seemed to know every tree and every crevice. Occasionally, the gorilla would stop, sniffing the air with high alertness, forcing the group to hold their breath. It was then they began to notice anomalies on the ground. Heavy truck tire tracks churning the soft earth, branches broken violently, and the sharp scent of gasoline wafting through the wind. The deeper they went, the more vital the gorilla's presence became. It led them across a stream covered in thin ice, pointing out stable rocks to step on. Chloe realized they were approaching Black Rock Abyss, an area cordoned off due to landslide risks. Why was Mr. Miller here on Christmas Eve, and why did such a rare creature appear to bring the news? These questions swirled in their minds, but their pace never faltered. Initial skepticism gave way to a vague trust. They began to realize the gorilla was and oppos just leading them. It was sharing their grief and anxiety. The flashlight beams reflected off the sparkling snow, creating a surreal scene where the boundary between man and wild blurred for a single purpose: saving the man who had spent his life protecting this forest. After more than an hour of struggling with slippery slopes, the white gorilla suddenly stopped at the edge of a steep cliff overlooking a deep valley. It emitted soft whimpers, its hands gripping an old pine tree. When Tyler shone his high-powered flashlight downward, the group fell silent in horror. Mr. Miller's familiar pickup truck lay overturned at the bottom of the abyss, a mangled heap of steel wedged between gray boulders. Gray smoke still rose from the shattered engine. mixing with the thick winter fog. The team rushed down the cliff. As they got closer, Chloe, the most observant regarding field evidence, spotted anomalies immediately. She pointed out dark bullet holes piercing the truck and Oppo's S-frame and tire marks from another heavy vehicle that had forced Mr. Miller off the trail. This wasn't Oppo's an accident caused by ice. This was attempted murder. Mr. Miller had stumbled upon something he wasn't Oppo's supposed to see, and the culprits had decided to silence the witness on this quiet Christmas night. They found Mr. Miller a few meters from the wreckage, his body half hidden by fresh snow. A massive fallen branch from above had pinned his left leg, crushing the bone at a sickening angle. He was still breathing, but his breaths were shallow and irregular, his face pale from blood loss and hypothermia. Sarah immediately knelt, her hands shaking as she began basic first aid. And, quote, "He needs to get out of here now. He wanted Oppo's last until sunrise," and, quote, she whispered hoarsely. At that moment, a chilling sound echoed from the top of the cliff, the roar of truck engines and bright headlights sweeping through the trees. The poachers had returned. They wanted to ensure the only witness didn't Oppo's survive. Tension peaked as the Rangers realized they were trapped. On one side was their dying mentor, and on the other were armed criminals scouring the dark. The white gorilla did not run. It stood as a barricade at the only entrance to the rocky hollow where Mr. Miller lay, its body tense like a pulled bowstring. In that moment, its eyes met Tyler's. Without words, Tyler understood. This creature was volunteering to be their shield. While Sarah and Jax struggled with hydraulic tools to lift the heavy log, the gorilla began moving ghost-like through the brush, intentionally making loud noises in the opposite direction to distract the poachers. Gunshots rang out, tearing through the forest and Oppo's silence. But every bullet fired into the dark only strengthened the young Rangers and Oppo's resolve. They knew they weren't and Oppo's alone. They were fighting alongside the forest and Oppo's truest guardian. The sharp cracks of gunfire echoed through Black Rock Canyon, sparks flying through the cold night as the poachers frantically fired at any white shadow moving through the trees. Down in the ravine, the Rangers and Oppo's situation turned desperate. The ancient log pinning Mr. Miller was too heavy. Despite Tyler and Jax's combined strength, it wouldn't Oppo's budge. Meanwhile, Sarah used her last bandages to stem the bleeding, her eyes constantly tracking the headlights, drawing closer. They were caught in a natural trap where life was measured in seconds. Just as a poacher with a rifle was about to peer down into their hiding spot, a thunderous, powerful roar shook the air. The white gorilla, with its innate agility, had climbed a high branch directly above the criminals. It didn't end Oppo's attack directly to kill. Instead, it used its incredible strength to shake loose boulders from the cliffside, triggering a localized rustling. Large stones tumbled down, causing the poachers to flee back to their vehicles in a panic. Seizing the precious moment, the gorilla leaped down beside Tyler and Jax. Without needing instruction, it placed its powerful hands under the base of the log. An incredible sight unfolded. The gorilla strained, muscles bulging under its white fur like steel cables. With the combined effort of Tyler and Jax, a loud crack sounded, and the ton-heavy log was finally hoisted off Mr. Miller and Oppo's leg. Sarah quickly dragged him to safety while the gorilla stood pinned, its eyes never leaving the direction of the poachers. In that breathless moment, Chloe finally found a high enough point to catch a radio signal. She screamed into the mic, her voice trembling but fierce. "Mayday! Mayday! Station 9 reporting. We are at Black Rock Canyon coordinates. We have a critically injured officer and armed suspects on site. Requesting immediate backup." End quote. The static on the other end was finally replaced by the firm voice of the state police, announcing that a rescue helicopter was en route. The confrontation wasn't Oppo's over. The poachers, having regained their footing, started their engines to charge down toward them. But the white gorilla was faster. It lunged into the middle of the only path, standing tall like a divine protector. The poachers and Appos. Headlights hid its white fur, creating an image of immense power and dread. The creature and Appos. Steadfastness seemed to make the criminals hesitate. Just then, the rhythmic thumping of helicopter blades echoed from afar, joined by the red and blue lights of police cruisers racing up the trail. Realizing it was over, the poachers spun their trucks around to flee, unaware that Mr. Miller had captured full evidence of their crimes. The gorilla watched the lights fade, then quietly retreated into the shadows of the pines where it belonged. The brilliant searchlights of the rescue helicopter sliced through the night sky, dispelling the thick fog and bringing the ultimate hope. As the rescue team reached the scene, the young Rangers exhaled in relief, though their hearts still hammered from the ordeal. Mr. Miller was loaded onto a stretcher, stabilized by Sarah's quick thinking. Before the helicopter doors closed, Miller feebly opened his eyes, his weary gaze fixed on the dark pine ridge where the white gorilla was hidden. He raised a trembling hand, making a simple sign that only those who truly understand body language would recognize. The sign for, in quote, "Son." From the shadows, a white figure gave a small nod before vanishing completely into the vast night. 2 weeks later, the atmosphere at the county hospital was quieter and warmer than ever. Mr. Miller lay in bed with his leg in a bright white cast, but his eyes had regained their usual spark. When the 4 young Rangers visited, they cooed in and Appos. T helped but ask about the creature from that night. Miller smiled, a smile full of grace, and reached for his battered Ranger hat by the bed. He peeled back the inner lining and pulled out a small, yellowed photograph. In the photo, a much younger Miller was cradling a tiny, white gorilla cub covered in wounds. He began to tell a secret he had kept for 3 years. He had found the cub next to its mother's body in a cruel steel trap set by poachers. Knowing that a rare albino creature would become a target for laboratories or exotic collectors, he chose silence. He secretly nursed it back to health, taught it how to find food, and taught it to recognize ranger signals to avoid danger. He hadn't Appos. T just saved an animal. He had raised a soul. End quote. It didn't Appos. T saved me because
so
I am
beautiful.
Appos. Am a ranger, end quote. Miller said,
I
his
just wish
voice
she
choking
could see
up,
it too.
end quote. It saved me because to him, I'm the only family he has in this room, end quote. The room fell silent with emotion. They realized that behind the wildness of nature lies a heart of deep gratitude, if only we treat it with sincerity. The story concludes as winter fades, making way for the warm spring sun at Pine Ridge. The snow began to melt, but the memory of that Christmas night remained vivid in everyone's mind. Tyler and his friends maintained the habit of leaving fruit at the forest edge as a silent thank you. On the highest peak, under the brilliant sun, people sometimes still see a white figure standing guard over the forest. It is not a ghost, but a true protector. The story of the white messenger stands as a testament to a simple truth. Kindness is a language that needs no words. It is the strongest bond between all living things on this earth.